It's unfair, it's not practical at all, because how can I be just one person expected to perform at my best in all these different, capacities as a mother, as an employee, as a boss.
You're expected to figure all of it out and give 100% to everything. If one suffers, then it's your fault.
We have to do business or do our work as if we don't have children, and we have to be parents as if we don't have anything else to do.
All these different functions, it just doesn't make sense for me to perform at 100.
Hi neighbors, welcome to Stories Next Door. I'm your host, JEICY Joyce, and today I'll be wearing the hat of a moderator for this special Women's History Month conversation. Here on Stories Next Door, we believe in creating space for real, honest and thought-provoking conversations. This is not a debate, it's a dialogue, a chance to listen, to understand, and to explore the stories behind the perspectives. Today we are diving into a conversation that many of us have thought about but rarely get the chance to discuss openly. We'll be exploring the challenges, expectations, and evolving roles of women in today's world through career, family, identity, and beyond. Our guests bring different perspectives, values, and viewpoints to the table, and while we may not always see things the same way, there's a power in simply hearing each other out. This is about connecting, not competition, reflection, not judgment. So I invite you to lean in, keep an open mind, and join us as we navigate these stories together. With that said, let's meet our guests.
Hi neighbors, my name is Nancy Masila.
I'm Rebecca Leppard,
My name is Royce Mangrove.
I'm the CEO and founder of JEICY Network.
the CEO and founder of Upgrading Women Media and Marketing Agency.
And I'm the Chief Executive and founder of My Trauma's Chronic, but I'm iconic.
And I'm 32 years old.
I am 42 years old.
And I'm 19 years old.
Women are expected to do it all, build a career, raise a family, and maintain societal beauty standards. We are going to start with you, Royce. Why do you disagree with this prompt?
I disagree with the statement because I think it sets women up to fail. I think it creates additional barriers for us to succeed. I think, coming from a British Asian community, I know that's a heavy expectation on us, and we are supposed to do it without a support system, and people don't have the same expectations on men majority of the time. And how are we going to? So we are doing children, maintaining that beauty standard, and going to have a successful career. How does it all function? One is going to suffer, and we can't do it without a support system. And I think the expectation on women as mothers, you might agree to this as being a mother yourself, you're expected to figure all of it out and give 100% to everything. If one suffers, then it's your fault. You have no support system. You're basically set up to fail, and it's just, yeah.
Well, we're recording this at half term.
Yeah.
Meaning that all three of my children are at home while I'm trying to run a business. I was just telling my friend, I think the government should be paying me for childcare during these times, because what I'm doing actually as parents, not necessarily the mother, because it does go, the burden goes to both parents, but what we are expected to do is we have to do business or do our work as if we don't have children. And we have to be parents as if we don't have anything else to do, right? And that is something that in the capitalistic world, it just doesn't work for the entire economic system. I'm not even saying this because I'm crying as a mother, like, oh, I'm poor old me, I'm tired, I'm sleep deprived, and so on. But the entire society is losing out because if the next generation, aka children, the next labor force is not being taken care of properly, the economy will suffer. Then what are we expecting from generation alpha and beta? If the parents are already stretched so thin that they're only going to get, like crumbs of the attentions, the educations, and the love.
I think, sorry.
No, I think I agree with both of you. It's just such an unfair kind of expectation from the society. It's unfair, it's not practical at all, because how can I be just one person expected to perform at my best in all these different, capacities, as a mother, as an employee, as a boss, as a CEO, like all these different functions. It just doesn't make sense for me to perform at 100. I could perform at 100 on one of them, but then the other is probably at 60 or 40.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's more practical, because again, why is this expectation not on the men and on the women? And I think, you're very generous in saying that, the burden is on both parents, but
It's disproportionate, isn't it?
yeah, I mean, I think sometimes mothers do carry the burden of being, the most involved parent.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
The burden is actually on both, but the women carries the guilt.
Okay, that's a good point.
Right? Because the real responsibility is on both parents. There's no law that says anything else, but I have to say, we as women have to take accountability as well. Are we beating ourselves down when we have to miss sports day because we have an important meeting?
Yes.
Men don't. Why are we beating ourselves?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the thing. That's
Yeah.
the difference between the burden and the guilt.
True.
But of course, the guilt is perpetuated by
Yeah.
the society's expectations.
Yeah, because
Like,
people will look at you funny. People will look at you funny, like, why are you missing out on your baby's recital? Why were you not
Absolutely.
there? Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm not a mother myself, but I work in a residential care home. So I look after the children there, and they all have varying needs, and quite a lot of them have complex social, emotional, mental health needs. But there's also a paperwork element to it as well. So I'm supposed to look after these children, meet their needs, make sure they go to school, make sure they attend their appointments and therapies. But also I'm supposed to be doing the paperwork side of things, do the, all the forms, the incident reports and all these. And I'm like, but I also need to care for them. I know it's not the same as being a biological mother, but it's a different carer role that I'm taking on. And there's that unfair expectation in the workplace as well. And I feel like a lot of the time, which men don't have, that burden, if we go back to the burden, so many mothers that I know who are working mothers get asked in an interview, even though it's illegal, it still happens, they get asked, oh, so do you have childcare? What happens to your child when you're at work?
Oh, they're just out foraging mushroom.
I think there needs to be realistic expectations. And I think you're right, women do feel more guilt, but as a society, no matter what race, without race, religion or cultures coming into it, females from a very young age are taught to be maternal. Like, if you think about it, we're all like blank slates when we come into the world. We get dolls, I play house and all of this. And from a young age, they're telling us, oh, you have to do this. Oh, you have to also be good at school. And you're brought that way. And it's so damaging to your mental health and your physical health as well.
Recently, the trending topic is the eldest daughter syndrome.
Yeah.
See, so like it's not even a mother yet, but just being a daughter, you're expected to be the good girl.
Yeah.
You're expected
And that's also on the men.
Yeah.
It's not.
Boys will be boys. That is
my
the statement
God, yeah.
that I really need to delete.
The reason why I picked neutral is because, as we all said, I think we also alluded to that, is doesn't the culture background, the economic background, or the personal choices also does play a part in this conversation, maybe?
I think, from my experience in the work that I do, so my organisation, we work with people who have gone through trauma and adversity, and a massive part of it is gender. And, all these trauma can come from, socioeconomic backgrounds or other less privileged, things. But I think a lot of it does come down to that, but a massive part is the way that society is in general, without that being influenced. I feel like intersectionality exacerbates the issues, but it's already there from a very young age. Even when you're in the education system, you're taught that from a young age, from the time that you're going to nursery, from the time that you're born. Bringing back to the eldest daughter thing, is if you look at it, I think the organisation's called Eldest Daughter Unite, and there's women of all different types of cultures, all different types of backgrounds, being like, I face this too, and it's adding that carer role and responsibility onto a daughter. Is that a female expectation?
Actually, I saw a documentary on how Iceland is intentionally trying to remove this. So from nursery, their nursery is they mix and match all of the engendered role play, toys, and including, and this is I think what we're gonna touch on later, the energy, the feminine energy and the masculine energy, not the sex itself, but the energy of caring, nurturing. If boys are taught that it's okay to be caring, it's not something that you get bullied, like you are so effeminate for like caressing your sister's hair,
or boys don't cry.
yes. So the whole thing is actually toxic for the boys as well. So one of the things that, and I hope this answers your question, that society can change that. There is such a place called Iceland that are actively combating this, and with intention as well. And all the parents are happy, including, as you said, support system, including having parental leave introduced. So the whole thing has to, it's a concerted effort.
A reform is needed. Yeah, I think society can do it, but I think it's a willingness to do it. The governments have enough money, power, and everything to do it, but it's the willingness, the openness, which people lack. I think not just governmental levels, but also in society. That needs to change for the expectation of women to change.
Okay, cool. We are going to move on to the next prompt. Traditional femininity is outdated in the modern world. What I want you guys to think is, should we refine femininity, or does it still hold value?
I don't even know. It's agree or disagree, but I do have thoughts.
Yes, Rebecca, do you want to start?
So continuing with what I said earlier, we're not talking about the gender itself, but the value, right? The feminine value, the feminine energy, the feminine intelligence. I feel, fact check me on this, but Carl Jung do think that in every one of us, there's both, the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And it's not an either or. It's the key is for us to find balance when one is needed more than the other. We know when we need to use force. For example, if a door is stuck, you kind of have to force it, not talk to the door and say, "Can you please?" So there are things that you have a whole Swiss Army knife in you. Then you need to know which tool you need to use at what scenario. What is dangerous in society is that, again, one is considered lower level than the other. That's why I hate it when people say hard skill versus soft skill. I agree that one is hard in that like resilience, moving forward and acquiring, but soft skill like empathy and nurturing, making, building bridges, peacemaking. That is soft, I agree in that sense. But if people say soft as a like degrading, like, oh, you're so soft, then that is the one that is not, that's not a good vibe into the conversation. So I do think that quote unquote traditional femininity in terms of, the caring, the empathy, and the nurturing aspect, we should keep that. And if anything, male leaders need to adopt that more. Because imagine all of our male leaders, if they are in touch with their femininity, imagine what the world would look like. Imagine what political campaign would look like, instead of like basically making it a bloodbath.
Yeah. I'm kind of like in the middle ground here, because being that we're in 2025, it's a different time from when, like, for example, our parents, kind of existed or were taking up some of the spaces. We've evolved as a, as a nation. We've evolved as a, as a globally, right? And things are different. The workplace is different. The way we work is different. The way we interact with people is different. So I believe, as much as when we look back and look at the traditional feminine roles or feminine energy, yes, there are great aspects to that. But then in this time and age, maybe we need to reassess and make sure that wherever we decide to pick as a society, and even as at individual levels, serves us. And I think Rebecca was so right in saying that we need to kind of find a balance. So find a balance in the different spaces you are, in different situations, to make sure it's working for you. Because, traditionally, as a, if you're a woman, you're expected to take up more traditional roles, stay at home, take up more, traditionally feminine roles. But then, what if I want to be an engineer, right? What if I want to be a physicist, an astronaut? Am I, going all the way? But no, I can still be an engineer and still be, strong in my feminine energy.
You can wear lipstick and be an astronaut.
Exactly, right? And paint my nails.
Exactly.
Things are starting to be redefined.
Exactly.
Yes.
So redefine that and make sure it's working for you.
Yeah. Okay. Rosemary, do you want to?
I think, yes, we do need to refine femininity, definitely. I think things have changed drastically. Even how things were 10 years ago, it's absolutely different. I think women are given more opportunities. Not enough, but it's still more opportunities. I think women have more choice in what they can do, the majority of them, in careers. I know it's not as welcoming, but, we have choice. We don't have to be a traditional housewife tending to our children 24/7. If that's what you choose to do, that's what you choose to do. But that's not everybody's end goal. Yes. And I think people need to realise that, and that's the way that we need to redefine femininity. But there's parts of being feminine which is like, being like maternal. If you want to be maternal, that's absolutely fine. If you're empathetic, caring, that's seen as more feminine things. But I think also, I know that being a brown South Asian female, I know I keep bringing this up because intersectionality is so important. I know if I speak in a certain tone like this, I'll be seen as aggressive, but I'm just being assertive. And being assertive is a feminine quality. We do it in everyday life. But when it comes from a woman, it's so different. It's seen as, oh, she's aggressive. When it's a man, it's like, oh, he's assertive. He knows what he's doing. Like, why can't being assertive be part of femininity? We have to do it all the time. I'm sure you do it with your children. Yeah. I'm sure you do it when you're at work. Yeah. But that's okay. And I think what's seen as more masculine needs to come into femininity. Like you said previously, there needs to be that crossover. Yeah. And there shouldn't be too much energy, or that's masculine, or that's feminine.
And it would be
just
exhausting.
Human.
Yeah. It would be exhausting, I think, to just be one all the time.
There has to be a balance.
And you need both, to be honest.
Yeah. And you can't, even if you're one, right? Yeah. Like, you're never going to win. It's like, oh, you're too girly. Yeah. Oh, you're acting like a man. No, I'm just the way that I am. I'm Voiceme Rajkumar Mangrove. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, this is who I am. And I don't think people realize that. It's like, these are the qualities that make me me. And I think it's important to refine femininity. And that's a step forward in changing how society is. And without that openness, I think society will continue to struggle.
That is true. Yeah, there has to be a balance. There's some things that still remain relevant, as you said, but you know, we are also redefining the 21st century. So just moving on to the next prompt. The rise of social media influencers is helping dismantle gender stereotypes. So are digital platforms empowering or harming women's identities?
I can't do it more aggressively than this.
Okay, so you're neutral about the topic.
No, I'm not yet decided. Please come again. Please come again, because I want to know which part of that I'm answering, because I feel like it's almost a very layered question.
Yeah, so the rise of social media influences is helping dismantle gender stereotypes.
I agree to that part.
Okay. So are digital platforms empowering or harming women identities? That's what I want you to think about. Okay.
So that second part, I'm like a bit neutral. So I guess the neutral kind of takes over. Okay, cool.
Do you want to start explaining why are you neutral about the topic?
I think there are women and men who are dismantling what is to be a female.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they're all breaking the norms.
Which we love, right?
Yes, we do love it. And it's creating that awareness that's so needed in today's society. However, on the other hand, there are people who are damaging innocent minds. There's so much misinformation, and which is so harmful for those who are not experienced.
Okay. Therefore, I think it's not about whether or not the platform is bad. It's the people in it. Because, I mean, let's go back to when we use the actual cave as social media. You literally write on the wall. It's not the cave. It's not the wall. It's the person leaving the mark on there. So you wouldn't even believe this, especially listening to a podcast now, that back when radio was just invented, radio was considered evil. Because, the young people are listening to the radio 24/7. So they're always, every time there's a new medium, people are demonizing them. But people keep forgetting who's creating the content. It's the human. And we know that human can be both good and bad. So I think, again, especially coming from a parent's perspective, and this is as someone who owns a social media agency, so I literally, that's my bread and butter. If there's no social media, I would probably do whatever the next one, metaverse or what have you. But from the parents and from the eldest daughter perspective, it is such a shame if people go straight to the blame game rather than taking accountability of oneself, because we can teach the algorithm to only show positive things.
We can. China is doing that.
Exactly. So, and if you as a parent say, my kids are always on social media. Well, where are you?
Where's the safeguards?
No, but where are you? Are you in the same room as them? You're just complaining that your kids, if you are present with your children, maybe they don't need those screens. Maybe they can actually talk to you. That's one thing. But of course, again, like my 11-year-old boy, he's a YouTuber. But it's within my guidance and support, and like I keep telling him about cybersecurity, about what privacy looks like, and so on. So with every tool, just like driving a car. Again, car used to be taught as the devil's wagon, by the way. So with every innovation, if we don't have accountability as human to actually learn what can be the double-edged sword, therefore we can, as you said, set up the guardrails and see where, okay, this could be taken so into the so extreme level, like the fraud, the cyber fraud, but also there's cybersecurity. So that whole dynamic, I think, and going back to whether or not it's dismantling women, again, algorithm, curate who you follow.
I think the key part of the statement was social media influencers, and I think social media influencers, a lot of them, there are some that do have it, but a lot of them lack ethical ethics. Yeah, and there's some things that they don't think twice about. What's quick views, quick engagement, that's what they want. And that's, like we discussed this before the podcast, that's not always the best way to go about things. And I think people lack the responsibilities of what they're posting online. And with that lack of responsibility, no matter how much, in the work that I do, these are at risk, like, I hate that term, but they're like high risk individuals. They're like at risk of exploitation, they're at risk of serious harm. But no matter how much safeguards we do put into place, they're going to hear about these. Like, for example, Andrew Tate doesn't have the best view of women. He's very misogynistic. He's very much damaging, and he's one of the examples. But my young person has no access to the phone, no access to the television unsupervised, but he knows of Andrew Tate, and he knows of all the ideologies, and he strongly believes in it. And that's because he would hear it from his friends and stuff like that. But social media influencers forget the power they have in their hands. No matter what they say in their bio or in their videos, this is just my opinion. People are going to take that as facts. There's only so much we can do to safeguard. And I feel like to be a woman means so many different things. It will mean very different things for you, for me, and both of you will be very, very different. But dismantling what it means to be a woman, it's absolutely a common thing, and people need to stop doing it, because I think as much as we raise awareness, that's great, but also the damage that's done has a greater influence than the positive, and people forget that. It needs to be changed in that way.
Yeah. Well, in terms of kind of like how I view it is, social media is a tool, just like any other platform or medium. And, if social media today was to go down, and we've seen some platforms going down, like people just use another one, right? So social media is a tool. And at this time and age, I love that people have so much access and they have so much variety. And of course, online, you have so many people kind of sharing what it means to be a woman. And I love that people are able to see the different variants, whether be it from the socioeconomic aspect, from, people, heritage, culture, age. We have influencers who are like 60, which I love, or like 60, 80-year-old grandmas kind of coming online, and you get kind of experiencing that. And I think also social media has shaped a lot of even the way we consume marketing, advertising, and even the advertisers, they're starting to realize there are different demographics that, experience products differently. So I think from that aspect, I love what social media has done. And I love the different influencers, given their background, age, culture, economic, background, they've been able to kind of demystify that and brought forward. Because if you're a young kid growing up and you don't have access to, older women around you, but you're seeing them online and experiencing them, and it's positive, then that also kind of impacts how you view yourself and, aging. But then on the other hand, you're kind of seeing how damaging some of the messages can be. And now, if somebody's interacting with content that's not very positive, then that also influences them. If you're seeing somebody putting on, I don't know how many filters, and you think that's how they actually look in real life, and then you reflect yourself and you're a teenager with acne and struggling with, finding your way in the world, that can definitely have more like negative impact as well. So yes, social media is a tool, perfect. It gives us an eye or a window to the world, but then how we are consuming the content also needs to be quite, guided if you're younger, I think. And I think parenting, has become quite the challenge, because you also need to navigate this and help your kids as well navigate this new space.
The one thing that I would like to add, I feel like people often go to younger kids when they say it needs to be guarded, right? I think age doesn't matter, because the access goes to anyone and everyone, right? The one thing is people don't take into account capacity. Somebody could be 24, right? And then you think, oh, the brain is like starting to develop, to an adult properly, but doesn't mean they have the capacity to navigate the internet safely, and they still could be affected. I know that I'm 19 and I know that these women do not look like that in real life, but doesn't make me think, I wish I looked like that. I wish my teeth were like that. I wish my nose was like that. I wish that does not change.
I think insecurity is until you're old and dry, you still have insecurity.
Yeah, that never changes.
Yeah, but I think I hear what you're saying. I think it has to go both ways, that those with platforms, those with followers have to think about their effect, their influence, but the individual also have to kind of step back and have a self-awareness as well.
That's one thing though. Realistically speaking, there are people, like I know when I post something that I would be like, should I post that? What effect would it have? But there's other people who have no self-awareness whatsoever. And there's a lot more, there's more of them out there in the world than we would like to admit. Definitely.
Actually, it's not more, but they do have bigger platforms.
Bigger platforms, but I feel like we're focusing on people with just bigger platforms. And I feel like in this world, even if you have 5 followers, you're still an influencer in a sort of way. You will influence perceptions, you're going to influence people's ways of life and stuff like that. I think there's a very fine line between this, right? I think like this goes in before social media in general, but also dismantling, what it means to be a female. I think that there needs to be some sort of strict regulations, not regulations where you don't have free speech, but regulations to what goes out there and the impact that it has without an agenda.
But to what extent do you stop then?
I think
because you can't regulate how somebody shows up on social media, because it's going to have an impact on somebody else.
But the thing is, if we see I'm going to go back to Andrew Tate. I feel like he's the most known example. Yeah. If you see most of his content, all right, unless you're an alpha male, whatever they would like to call themselves, unless you're them, we all know that content is problematic. We know there's so many podcasts out there where there's women that do it as well, but the most popular, examples and people with the bigger platforms are usually men, right? Mm-hmm. And they talk absolute rubbish. And it's so damaging. And every time it gets so controversial and so big because of the impact that it has and how it affects people. Stuff like that needs to be regulated. Stuff that people always say. But people can say what they want to say, but it needs to be... I know that how I say it will have an impact, but they don't realise that. And that sort of content should not be out there. Because it's going to affect people regardless of capacities, regardless of age, and regardless of gender.
But this is the difficulty with, as Spider-Man said, with great responsibility.
Yeah.
No, great power comes with great responsibility. In that, I remember, this is how old I am. I remember when Facebook was being born. I remember I was a user of Friendster. That's how old I am. RIP Friendster. But so I see the platform evolve, and I see that moderation is needed, right? We're not even talking about the nuances of influence and opinions and lifestyle. Even as important as whether or not this is a fact, it's still a struggle to this day. Who's fact-checking all of this unlimited amount of content, whether or not it's, remember COVID? Remember how every single person has a theory about how to avoid it, how to cure it, who's responsible, whether or not it's real. So we see it, human and information. We're not the best of combination. We don't self-censor. And of course, it may sound ridiculous, but if a head of state of a certain country say that you can drink bleach to cure COVID, and that's being quoted all over the world, people can take it out of context. People can take it as is, like, oh, drink bleach, okay. So even at that point, it's still hard to even moderate these issues.
Yeah, okay. I think we diverted a bit from the conversation, but it's so good. So we are just going to move to our last prompt. And that is, men should be actively involved in conversations about gender equality. And what we want you to think about is, should men take a leadership role in advocating for women's rights, or should they step back? Okay. Okay, we all agree here. Looks like it. Okay. Royce, do you want to start?
I think men should take, a stand. They should be in the conversation, in the same room, because they're impacting us. We probably impact them as well. But, I feel like change can't happen when not every party is in the room. Yeah. We need to have conversations. We need to have very honest, harsh conversations about the reality of being a woman. And let's be honest, it's not all men, but every single time we hear about it, it is a man. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. And they need to realise that even though it's not you, a lot of the damage is coming from your gender. What are we going to do to change it? Because I know that the conversation that we have today, for example, we might have different opinions, but then I might say something and then you might think about it and then you go share it with somebody else and it goes, not viral, what's the word? Goes around and people start to think and reflect. I think it's super important for men to be in the conversation, because change can't happen. The change for females, whether it's a place in, careers, maternity, it cannot happen without men in the room. Even if you think about politics, right? Majority of politicians are men, and they have such great power. And like you said, great power comes with great responsibility. Yeah. They're unable to fulfill their responsibilities to their best extent, and with our best interests included, if they're not in the same room with us. They need to be in conversation. They need to be challenged. They can challenge our views and thoughts as well. But we are unable to create a change in society without doing that. I think that's important.
I'm going back to my communications nerd mode now. So, in communications, it's as simple as the source, the message, and the receiver. Yeah. The source of choice will determine how the message is received. If fellow bros talk about how damaging, how problematic it is, what their fellow bros are doing, it will be received better, versus if, it's just women talking and complaining all the time. But if you call out each other, say, bro, that's actually not nice. Bro, would you want your sister to be treated like that? So that's why countries send not brand ambassador. This is so social media, actual country state ambassador. It's because the ambassador that they choose is those who will represent the interest. So I think now, granted, you don't have to have a sister or a daughter to have empathy. You are born from a woman. So if you love and respect your mother, you should be already on the side of women, and therefore you're on the side of the community. So it's not like either or. It's like, gosh, can you imagine if your own mother is happy, wealthy, well hydrated? Right? Yeah. So as simple as that. And it's not even about, oh, it's not fair if we have to stand in the train while women get all the seats. It's not about that. Equality is not about that. It's about a whole, you have to see it as a whole community. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it takes two to make a difference. I think we need both men and women on the forefront, championing, advocating. I mean, you have a whole half of the population facing this, challenges, and the men have to realize that them being on board in terms of advocacy is also kind of creating a better place for their daughters, for their sisters, for their mothers, and even if they don't have women in their lives, just for the world in general, So, and it's an advantage to them as well, because some of the rights that we're advocating for, like, maternity and all that, it also goes back and ties into paternity, men needing more time with their families and needing more time with their children. So, again, some of these rights, they might seem it's just for women, but in general, like, it's for everybody. It's for the benefit of everybody in the society. And the change is for everyone, not just women.
Yeah. Wow, thank you.
Sorry.
like imagine if you have a happy wife.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Mic drop.
That's all you need.
Yeah. One final thought. I think what a lot of people try to achieve for equality. For me personally, I don't believe in equality. I believe in equity. I think people come from different playing fields, and that needs to be leveled up. And I think it goes for men and women, but also when we're having these discussions, I don't want to be having these discussions with just feminist men or men who believe in equity or whatever. We need to have people from different backgrounds and different perspectives to be part of the conversation, or no real change is going to happen.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, ladies. Different views, but obviously every view is accepted here. Well, neighbors, thank you so much for watching. How can we find you? What are your social media handles?
Okay, you can find me on LinkedIn. I know it's like, oh, of all social media, why is she on LinkedIn? Because I tell you, LinkedIn is the safest social media. You will never find Andrew Tate on LinkedIn, that's for sure, because everyone is respectful, everyone will just prop each other up. And you can find me there, Rebecca Leppard.
You can find me on any social media by voicing me Rajkumar Mangrove. That's my thing. And you can find my organisation at My Trauma's Chronic, but I'm iconic.
Amazing. Well, you can find me at all social media, actually. So LinkedIn, where I'm quite active as well.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm quite active on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as well. Instagram and LinkedIn are kind of like where you'll find me. But yeah, Nancy Masila. That's my handle.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure that the neighbors enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Okay, bye.
Bye.